Students, how are you all? Welcome back. We have already started our chapter, The Mughal Empire, where in the part 1 session we did read about Babur, Humayun, Sher Shah Suri, and Akbar the Great, and Akbar's policy towards to Rajput policy and religious policy. So, in this session, we will start from Jahangir. So, who was Jahangir? Jahangir was Prince Salim. He was the eldest son of Akbar. So Jahangir ruled from 1605 to 1627. He was very famous by the name of Prince Salim. He ascended the throne in 1605. Jahangir means the ruler of the world. He is known in history for dispensing justice to one and all. Jahangir inherited a solid empire, but he did not loosen his hold over it. Jahangir was the fourth Mughal emperor who ruled from 1605 until his death in 1627. His imperial name means conqueror of the world conqueror or world sizzler. So Jahangir and Noor Jahan. In 1611, Emperor Jahangir married Meherunisa. He gave her the title of Noor Jahan, that means light of the world. She was extremely intelligent, talented, and beautiful. Jahangir took her advice on all important issues. Once, when he fell ill, Noor Jahan successfully managed the affairs of the empire. At the time of Jahangir rule, during Jahangir's reign, several English traders came to India. They wanted to get trade concession from the emperor. Two ambassadors, Captain William Hawkins and Sir Thomas Roy from the English East India Company, were also sent to Jahangir's court. In 1612, Jahangir granted permission to English traders to set up a trading port at Surat. He also granted them many trading rights and concessions. So it was the starting part of Britishers who came to India for business purpose. After Jahangir ruled, Shah Jahan came into the throne. He ruled from 1627 to 1658. Shahabuddin Muhammad Khurram, better known by his regional name Shah Jahan, was the fifth Mughal emperor who reigned from 1628 to 1658. He is widely considered one of the greatest Mughal emperor. Under his reign, the Mughal Empire reached the peak of its glory. Shah Jahan's region was full of turmoil. He witnessed many revolts. He had the march against Bundelas, Rajput, and was able to crush the revolts. Next was the revolt in the Deccan. In 1633, Shah Jahan invaded the Deccan and annexed Ahmednagar. Bijapur and Golconda signed a peace treaty with Shah Jahan and agreed to pay an annual tribute and promised their loyalty. During the Shah Jahan period, European traders continued their trading activities during the region of Shah Jahan. The Portuguese had established themselves in Bengal and enjoyed an independent position. The Portuguese became troublesome and stopped paying custom duties. Shah Jahan led a campaign against them and was successful. After this incident, he made a Portuguese trade on his terms. Travels in Mughal Empire by barrier in 1656 to 1688. Most well-known accounts are Travel in India by Tavernier 1642-1667, So these are the information account about the Mughal Empire. After Shah Jahan, when he Shah Jahan was having four sons, Dara Sukho, Shuja, Murad, and Aurangzeb. In 1658, Aurangzeb ascended the throne after defeating his brothers and killing his main rival Dara Sukho. Dara Sukho was the eldest son of Shah Jahan, who loved by and appreciated by Shah Jahan very much. He made his father Shah Jahan a prisoner at Agra fort. Then the crowned then he crowned himself as the emperor. Shah Jahan died in 1666. So now who was in the throne? Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb Aurangzeb ruled from 1658 to 1707. Mudiuddin Muhammad, commonly known by the sobriquet Aurangzeb or by his regional title Alamgir, was the sixth Mughal emperor who ruled over almost the entire Indian subcontinent for a period of 49 years. During his long reign, the Mughal Empire reached the largest size covering nearly whole of the India. Aurangzeb was a strict discipliner. He was an orthodox, God-fearing Muslim. He held a very simple lifestyle and appropriately described a zinda pir or living sand. Aurangzeb never wore costly robes nor used gold silver vessel. He was not in favor of taking money from the treasury for his personal use. He copied the Quran and sewed caps and sold them. Aurangzeb region was marked by revolts. In northern India, Aurangzeb had increased the land tax from one third to one half to the produce. The Jat and Agra Mathura region, the Satnamis and Bundelas revolted against the increased land tax. Unlike Akbar, who had friendly Rajput policy, Aurangzeb followed the policy interference in the affair of the Rajput state of Mewar and Mewar. This resulted in strained relationship with the otherwise loyal Rajputs. So Aurangzeb spent time, resources, and energy in crushing these revolts, but his longest and toughest struggle was against the Marathas with Shivaji as their leader. So we'll talk about the decaying policy of Aurangzeb. Who was Aurangzeb actually? Actually, Aurangzeb was known for a ruler who was very cruel. Under him, the Mughal Empire reached its greatest extent. That's true. All the policies he made, the policy was just against of the Rajput. Aurangzeb expanded Mughal rule north and south, but his constant military campaigning and religion intolerance ranked many of his subjects. He did not hesitate to torture and kill prisoner of war, political prisoner, and anyone he considered un-Islamic. To make matters worse, the empire became overextended and Aurangzeb imposed ever higher taxes in order to pay off his war. So if we'll talk about the Deccan policy, Aurangzeb spent almost 24 years of his reign in the Deccan. He was successful in annexing the state of Bijapur in 1686 and Golconda in 1687. But he was unable to subdue Shivaji and his successor. It resulted in an independent Maratha state. But his prolonged absence from northern India weakened the administration and depleted the treasury. Next, we'll read about the position of the emperor in Mughal administration. So, main responsibility of the Mughal emperor was what? Jahanbani, that means protection of the state, and Jahangari, that means extension of the empire. Along with these, emperor was the head of the state. He was also the lawmaker and chief executive. Next, we'll read about provincial administration. The empire was divided into provinces called the Subas. Each Suba was headed or looked after by Subedar, or you can call it governor. He was an important link between the emperor and province. Each province or suba was subdivided into district or sarkar. Each district or sarkar was divided into many parganas. Each pargana was further divided into many villages. So these villages was the smallest units of the administration. You can say it like, for common example, India is a country and there's many different states, and after state their capital and different cities are there. So the partition was same like this. After this, we'll read about the army administration. Mughal army consisted of cavalry, infantry, artillery and elephants. The Mir Bakshi was the in charge of the army. He was responsible for the recruitment of the soldier and maintaining their hulias, looking after the branding of the horses and the elephant, and he even commanded the army when asked to. What is Mansabdari system? The word Mansab means a position or a rank. A Mansabdar was a person who holds a Mansab. Akbar organized his nobility and the army into the Mansabdari system. This system was not hereditary. When a Mansabdar died, his Jagir was given away to someone else. Under this system, grading was used by the Mughals to fix the following: number 1, rank, salary, or military responsibility. Next, we'll read about the land revenue system. What was the land revenue system? Raja Todarmal, Akbar's revenue minister, was the main architect of Akbar's land revenue system. This system of land revenue was known as the Todarmal's Bogus. Under this system, land was measured, and according to the fertility of the land, it was categorized as good, average, or bad. The revenue was fixed accordingly. So, this is called Mansabdari system. After that, we'll read about the economic and social condition of Mughal Empire. The Mughal court, a ceremonial court. The Mughal court was headed by the emperor. He sat on a magnificent throne. The noble sat at lower level than the emperor. The important nobles sat near the emperor. There were two halls of audience, the Diwan-e-Khas and the Diwan-e-Aam. So, Diwan-e-Khas, this was the hall of private audience, and Diwan-e-Aam, this was the hall for the public audience. In Diwan-e-Khas, here the reports from the noble and other head were read at an assigned time. And in the next hand, in the public audience, Diwan-e-Aam, the general public could come and put their problems before the emperor. So, Sijda and Payabos were performed before the emperor. During Akbar's reign, however, Kurnish and Taslim were also performed. Next, we'll read about what kind of agriculture was at the time of the Mughal Empire. Agriculture was the primary occupation in those times, and land was the most important source of revenue. Hence, all rulers tried their best to raise the productivity of land. They even encouraged peasants to bring more land under cultivation. To encourage this move, they even exempted peasants from taxes if they successfully did so. So this is all about the administration part, agriculture part, and this is all about this chapter, students. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you so much for this session. Thank you.